Breakfast Call Dialogue, widening your horizons.
Hi, this is Arlene.
And this is Grace.
And you're listening to ASEAN, the voice of discovery. And also, we are moving on to the ABC dialogue. So today we have a lawyer that is going to speak with us regarding on the Freedom March against the Sedition Act, which will be happening tomorrow morning. Mm-hmm. And we have Alex Netto. He is a lawyer and partner at CK Howe & Co.
Yes.
Welcome to the studio.
Hello.
You. Thank you. Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine.
So you were stuck in a massive jam as well?
Yes.
Every time the jam gets larger and larger.
Especially when it's raining, I think it just gets worse.
Yeah, that's true. Especially when it's raining, and so in the morning it's hard to get to to office or even to the studio. But tomorrow morning, we will be having the Freedom March. So how are you going to organize, a bunch of lawyers to group together?
Well, Arlene and Grace, actually that is going to be a bit of a challenge tomorrow. We did have our meeting yesterday. When I was actually speaking to you, we were talking about this meeting that I was going to go to. We are actually part of a small so-called elite team of marshals who are going to be helping do a bit of crowd control come Thursday morning. Because we anticipate not just a large member of the Malaysian bar coming down and walking towards Parliament House, but we have a lot of civil society movements who will also be joining us, because, as our Vice President puts it, the Malaysian bar, whenever we organize a walk, it can never just be exclusively just members of the bar walking. You're bound to have civil society walking with us. On occasions, we have politicians walking with us, all trying to get a bit of the how do I say, the 5 minutes of fame or 10 minutes of fame. So crowd control is definitely going to be an issue tomorrow morning, given that we are walking in a very busy section of Kuala Lumpur, from Padang Merbok right up to Parliament. It might just be a few hundred meters of a stretch, but it is a busy stretch nonetheless. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge.
What time to what time?
The marshals will gather there early tomorrow. We start our day very early tomorrow. We will have a debriefing at about 7. After which we will convene at our respective stations throughout the intersection. We expect people to start convening on Padang Merbok by about estimation about 10 o'clock. I think that's when everyone is already in the office, so traffic is not too bad. If everything goes as scheduled, we should be starting our walk at 11:30.
11:30?
Yep.
Right up the way to Parliament. But
yes.
Will you be entering the Parliament, or will you be handing some sort of memorandum?
We will. There will be representatives from the bar. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I stand corrected on this. There will be about 5 or 6 members of the bar that will be granted access into Parliament House. The rest of us will have to just wait at the little police barricade that will be just outside Parliament, because you just can't have great numbers just barging into Parliament. So there will be about 6 people, and from what has been told to us, there will be a document handed over to a representative of the government, to the representative in Parliament. Exactly whether it's a memorandum, I'm so sorry, I won't be able to confirm that. But yes, it will be some sort of a memorandum pertaining to the Sedition Act.
I'm just wondering, because Sedition Act is not something new. It has been there since even before we gained independence.
Yes.
Although there were some amendments made right after the racial riot on the May 13th. But why only now you want to take on the Freedom March towards to show your dissatisfaction against the Sedition Act?
Okay. You're spot on, Arlene. Actually, the Sedition Act is a pre-independence act, 1948 to be precise.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the intended purpose for which this act was designed for no longer serves its purpose. That is basically what the stance taken by the Malaysian Bar. I have to just say this because there's been a lot of misunderstandings where the bar is coming from. A lot of people think that we are looking to make away with the Sedition Act, and that we are so that we are open to letting there be questions to people questioning Malay rights or issues pertaining to the royal institution. We are not advocating any such thing. What we are concerned about, or what the Malaysian Bar collectively is concerned about, is that as of recent, there has been a spike in the number of charges brought under the Sedition Act. Now, everything, it's like we're sitting on pins and needles. It's like everything that is said and done tantamounts to sedition. Mm-hmm. Because there are times where nobody is questioning the royal institution. We have utmost respect for the royal institution. It is a constitutional monarch. It is they have been entrenched in this country for as long as it's part of our history. But that's just times where we question certain things. It's not that we are belittling or anything. It's just that we are questioning certain things, and that tantamounts to being sensitive in nature, to being disrespectful, and warrants an action being brought in court under the Sedition Act.
So you are asking to reform the Sedition Act, or you are asking to repeal the Sedition Act?
What the Malaysian Bar is saying is that we want to repeal the Sedition Act because we feel that it's a redundant act. Malaysians have become far more informed, far more intelligent. Education is far more accessible to everyone, be it rural and urban areas. So I guess we don't need the Sedition Act to be enforced to tell us that, hey, that is wrong and that is right. I mean, I think people are generally smart enough to decipher what is meant by disrespectful or when it is okay to question. So we are actually calling for it to be repealed altogether.
So what is your expectation from this Freedom March against Sedition Act tomorrow?
Well,
are you expecting FRU coming in? To guess?
We have representatives from the Malaysian Bar have had discussions with the Malaysian police, and I have to say that the Malaysian police have been very cooperative. They have actually come on board and said that they will. They have informed us verbally that they will be there present to maintain peace, to regulate traffic, because our biggest concern is actually traffic. It's not
the morning traffic.
The morning traffic. We are not even concerned about issues like there being potential riots or potential. That is really not the concern. Our concern is that really it's something like traffic control. It's like we don't want anyone getting knocked, or because that is a very busy intersection. So to have the police give us that reassurance is comforting. But that being said, there will be people like myself. There is about 40 or 50 more of people like myself who will be marshalling the entire walk to ensure that safety is maintained. But as to whether we will achieve what we want to achieve, well, all the Malaysian Bar hopes to achieve from the tomorrow's walk is to present our case, so to say, to Parliament. To just tell Parliament, well, these are our reasons why we feel the Sedition Act should no longer be enforced. And do hear us out. We are not anti-government. We are not anti-establishment. We are not anti-monarch. We are just putting our case forward as to why Sedition Act should be abolished, should be repealed.
In the past, what was Malaysian Bar stance on the Sedition Act? I guess in the past I would mean during Mahathir's time and prior to Mahathir's time.
Okay. The Malaysian Bar has always taken a stance that the Sedition Act is no longer relevant. But the prominence given to this repealing of the Sedition Act has only come to surface recently, where the Malaysian Bar has taken a far more vocal stand, simply because what we are seeing now post Mahathir regime and under the current administration and under the current set work frame, we see more and more cases being brought under the Sedition Act. And it's getting more and more rampant and more frightening because we have had people make innocent comments. Well, I would not say innocent comments. I'll just say comments. They have made comments on Facebook and they're charged. We had recently people like Adam Adli, the university student who was charged under the Sedition Act. They have gone so far as to charge a law academician. Professor Azmi Sharum is a law professor in University Malaya. To charge him under sedition. I mean, law academicians are meant to inculcate ideas, debates. They are the ones who are supposed to encourage debate of the law. If they're not even allowed to do that, and they're always going to have that fear of sedition hanging over them, how effective a professor can you be? So that is what has troubled the Malaysian bar.
Perhaps the articles within the Sedition Act itself can be vague at times, especially the ones that was being charged towards Azmi Sharom, regarding on questioning the decision of the government, especially in the Perak crisis.
Yes.
So when you want to repeal the Sedition Act, my question is, what will be your justification to the government in case there are some hooligans wanting to questioning the royal rights or whatever, or the legitimacy of the current government and all that?
Okay, that we will have to work out as our next step, because of course law and order, maintaining unity in a very diverse culture as ours, is of prime importance. But it has to be a balancing act, Arlene. It has to be a balancing act, because we cannot have a situation where you're trigger happy because you have the Sedition Act, one becomes trigger happy. Like, oh, I don't like how he sounds, or I don't like how he looks. So I consider that to be a seditious tendency. Those are some of the wordings used in the Act. That is a seditious tendency. Or I think his tone is a little rough. His tone is a little anti-government. Well, we have the Sedition Act available, so let's take him under the Sedition Act. The problem that we see here is that, yes, those who are pro-Sedition Act always throw that argument forward. They keep saying stuff like, without the Sedition Act, it's open season on attacks on the royal institution. It's open season on attacks on the current administration. It's open season on attacks on religion, on race. But I personally think, this is not the Malaysian bar stand, but this is my personal stand. I think we are underestimating the Malaysian public. I think the Malaysian people have been greatly underestimated. We have will and perseverance to know when to react to what is right, to what is wrong. Just to digress a little, to explain that. I remember, I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago, when there was that torching of the church, the tabernacle, where part of the front portion of the church was torched. I can assure you, in some parts of the world, that would have led to riots. I mean, there would have been bloodshed for something as gross as that. But no such thing happened in Malaysia. Nothing, not even a whimper of riots or throwing of Molotov cocktails or any hate crimes or destruction of public property. Nothing happened. And that says a lot about the Malaysian people. We underestimate the Malaysian people. We try to paint the picture that, oh, without this act, there's going to be bloodshed. There is not going to be bloodshed. So that is how the pro-sedition movement groups have been portraying our cause. That, oh, without this act, this is what's going to happen. We're going to go back to another May 13 incident. No, people have matured from the May 13. There's a lot more civility and...
Perhaps also is a Malaysian culture where we restrain ourselves from violent acts, I would say. But at the same time, not just when it comes to freedom of expression, because there's a lot of perception or perspective on how freedom of expression should be contained or should be limited.
Yeah.
But in your personal view, maybe not the Bar Council's view, the Malaysian Bar's view, but on your personal view, what do you think is the right way in terms of understanding freedom of expression?
The right way to understand freedom of expression.
Should it be contained, limited, under certain laws or under the penal code perhaps? Or should it be let loose, like anyone can say anything as long as you don't harm other people?
But it also comes with country's growth itself. By ignoring and then punishing all those people under Sedition Act actually do suppress all those the country's growth. So in your own perspectives, what's your?
I'm sure you all are well aware of the fact that our freedom of expression is guaranteed under the federal constitution. But of course, in my personal 2 cents opinion here, with every responsibility, with every privilege given, there must be limitations. There must be respect afforded. I completely agree with that. People must be allowed to express themselves. And that is how countries like, to use comparative jurisdictions, for example, I will use countries like America and India. Now, if you see America and India, there is a reason why these 2 countries, besides the fact that they have a massive population, there's a reason why countries like these are super nations, are superpower economies. Because there is freedom of transfer of information. People can allow to express themselves. People can allow to take to the streets and say what they want their government to say. Recently in India, when there was a spike in this number of rape cases in the streets of New Delhi, the women movements, civil society took to the streets, made sure that the government heard them on this issue, trying to send a message to the government and trying to bring the world's attention to their government that something like this cannot happen. This is unacceptable in this day and age. Now, they took to the streets, they had their voices, they had their moment to express themselves. And being an Indian myself, I can tell you, they are very vocal. We are a very vocal bunch of people. And the Indians in India are very vocal. And they wanted the government to hear it, and they heard it. Of course, just for me to just use that as an experiment, if it went a step further, if that moment of freedom of expression went a step further and there was destruction of public property, riots, then yes, the law must step in. Because then you defeat the purpose of taking to the streets. You have lost your goal. So when it breaks out like that, then yes, in those situations, freedom of expression must be curtailed to that extent. But you must allow them to voice themselves. Now, you see, the whole world knows about what's happening in the streets of New Delhi. Why? Because people were allowed to speak. So, yes, to go back to your question, yes, to that extent it should be curtailed. But to what extent, that's very subjective.
It's very subjective.
Very, very subjective.
So in the Malaysia's case, because we are a very diverse nation, we are a very diverse nation, and if we allow everyone to speak, there would probably be some people, for example, people like Perkasa, that will go overboard. Although I'm also wondering why they are not being prosecuted under the Sedition Act as well. Let's say the Sedition Act is fair to all. Do you think it's still something that is useful to curtail certain extreme views that might harm other people?
As much as I cannot bring a single aorta in me to subscribe to the theories put forward by Perkasa and people like Isma, but I believe it was Winston Churchill who actually said this. He said that I may not agree with your stance, but I respect your right to disagree. Now, Ibrahim Ali may not be saying the right things at the moment, but he is definitely appealing to certain people. Now, we have to respect his right to say what he has to say. Just like how we are asking the Malaysian Bar, or people who are with the Malaysian Bar, or like-minded people with the Malaysian Bar, are actually asking the government to listen to us for the clarion call to abolish the Sedition Act. Similarly, people who are against us should also be given the platform to be heard. But whether you are for sedition or you're against the Sedition Act, at the end of the day, there must be limitations to what you do. Now, recently there were calls by Ibrahim Ali on the issues. Probably he was misquoted. He's now saying that he was most likely misquoted on this. But there were things said like about burning the Bibles. Now, issues like this, in my personal opinion, this is not the Malaysian Bar's opinion, but in my personal opinion, should not be tolerated. Because there is no purpose for one to say something like that. You do not. Those are what we call inflammatory statements. Those are statements likely to incite problems. Issues like that, yes. Spinning off from what you just said, Arlene, I myself am surprised why Ibrahim Ali has yet to be charged for something like that. Because that is blatant inflammatory. If it's proven to be a misquote, then Ibrahim Ali, if you're listening, I apologize. But if it's what he exactly said, then yes, in my personal opinion, he should be charged for that.
I see. So it seems like freedom of expression is definitely very, very important to be protected, regardless whether you agree with that person's view or not. But when it comes to Sedition Act, it is something that perhaps the government has to review back whether it's still relevant in today's society, where people are more matured in terms of the way they think and the way they interact with
and also government has to understand that we have more flat platforms to access and also to share our opinions on. So they have to really look into take that into consideration to listen to what public has to say about certain things rather than just punish them and send them under Sedition Act.
So to recap back, if the public wants to join the bar to march together, where they can gather and what time?
Okay. To those out there who want to walk with the Malaysian Bar tomorrow, I just have a few house rules that I will try to help convey on behalf of the bar. With regards to tomorrow's walk, please, this is as clear as one can get. This is not a political march. This is not an anti-establishment march. This is not an anti-royal institution march. This is purely a march to get our case across to Parliament. That this is our stand where the Sedition Act is concerned. People will start gathering. If you do want to participate and walk peacefully with us, we are going to be convening at Padang Merbuk. I think most people should be there by about 10ish. There will be 1-2 speeches that will be given to just explain what is the purpose of today's walk. After which, if everything goes as planned, if there is no untoward incidents, touch wood, people should start walking, making the walk at about 11:30. So yes, people can convene at Padang Merbuk. Please try not to park at Padang Merbuk because I think it's going to be a little crazy at Padang Merbuk. So please probably park at Dataran Merdeka or one of those neighboring parking areas. Yes, and for those who want to participate and you're affiliated to any political parties, we encourage you guys to please do not carry your flag banners and walk with us, because we don't want to be associated to any political parties. The bar tries to remain as impartial as we possibly can. Yes, a lot of people have actually told us that, but Alex, how can you guys say you're politically independent when you have members, when you have lawyers who are politicians as well? Yes, it is a fine line. But what I'm pretty sure that these lawyers who are also politicians, people like the late Karpal Singh, people like Gobind Singh Dio, people like them know when to draw the line, know when to wear on the cloak of a politician, and know when to remove that cloak and wear on the cloak as a lawyer. Now, what we are having tomorrow is a march of lawyers, which means it's a professional march. And that is how we try to distinct ourselves from any other march. It is a march of professionals. So we're trying to keep it as professional as we possibly can. So, political flags, please put it away. Come and march with us.
This is not about partisan politics at the end of the day.
Exactly.
It's
exactly.
about, the cause, which is,
Yes.
again, to repeal Sedition Act.
Correct. We are not looking to we are not looking to benefit any segment of society. It's for everyone. Because, hell, any one of us could now be arrested under the Sedition Act. Looking at the precedent already set forth here. It could be you, Arlene. It could be you, Grace. It could be me. It could be things that the government feels that, Alex shouldn't have gone on air today and said these things. Let's bring a charge against him. But that is how sensitive this issue has
Then
become.
we will have hashtag save support for Alex.
Yeah, hashtag is now the way to go. And probably there'll be a hashtag trending there. Yeah, but yep.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you very much. Thank
You're
you for
most
sharing
welcome.
your view.
Thank you for having me.